I'm a user interface and user experience designer in Odoo, and today I will show you some tips and tricks on how to create a breathtaking website in minutes with Odoo. There will be a question and answer section afterwards, so don't forget to write your question in the chat and we will have a discussion later. My first tip is to master your colors in your website. It may seem obvious, but colors have a tremendous effect in your website. And when you choose your color, don't forget think about consistency. Indeed, colors must be consistent across your entire website. Odoo provides some new tools that can help you to choose your color and to keep them consistent. As you can see in the screen, there is a new option tab section that is theme color with the 5 new dots color. This color will define the colors that will be used in your website. Here there is this section highlighted. If you need inspiration to choose your color for your website, you can click on the little bulb icon and Odoo will provide you some pre-made palettes that you can choose and eventually customize. But how can I customize a color? It's super simple. You have just to click on the color field and the color picker will appear, allowing you to choose your colors. So, as said, these 5 colors will generate automatically 5 color presets that can be assigned to any snippet or any component of your website, like the header or the footer or the columns or any section, really. Here there is an example of 4 color presets in action. As you can see, all these presets are the result of a combination of the 5 colors we chose previously. And here we have an example of a template using different color presets. As you can see, the colors are always consistent and looks nice together. All you have to do is to alternate presets between each section and it's done. But how should I choose my color? My suggestion is to start from the color of your brand. It's always a good choice because it reinforces your brand across the entire website. But you don't have to stop there. You can go behind and experiment and really feel free. I prepared some examples for you. Let's assume that we are making a website for the European Union. We have the Union flag on top. And as you can see, I choose the blue as a primary color. And as a secondary color, I choose a light variation, the saturate of the yellow. For the rest, I went with a grayscale. And on the right, you can see a final result of how these presets will look like when we alternate them in the page. This example was quite easy. Let's go with a different one. This logo is black and white, so we are kind of forced to use black and white as 2 colors, exactly the number 3 and the number 5. And as a primary color, I choose a color that I think may match the business in this case, so this orange coffee color. It will become trickier probably if you have a logo like this, when you have a lot of colors, and so you have to choose. Here I choose a combination of orange and violet, and then a gray variation of the blue, but of course I could go also for green and orange, etc. Even if my suggestion is to try to keep it simple and use a primary color that is one of the more prominent one of your logo, like in this case is the color of the P, and then use a grayscale palette. My second tip is to rule the empty space. The empty space in design, or it's also called white space, is the space between the elements. It helps the organization of your content because more the elements are closer, the more these elements are related. At the same time, if you distantiate an element from all the others, you make it look more important. So it's not just a technical measure about the distance between the elements, it's also a design strategy. Here there is an example. In the first case, we try to fill the entire space of the card using the image, the brand, and the copy. In the other case, we try to distantiate the element and to make a clever use of the white space. What I can see here is that in the second case, The brand is very clear and visible, the call to action too. But in the first case, when we try to fill all the available space, everything seemed some out. Yeah. And here we have a website template. Nothing crazy. Probably this design will not win any design contest, but it's just to show you the idea behind. This is a well-balanced website, and let's check how much white space or empty space we have. We have a lot of empty space. Indeed, as a general rule, we can say that approximately 70% of your page should be empty. Of course, this is just to give you an idea of the proportion, but the proportion may vary according to your to how much content you have to use on screen, and depends also by the style that you're aiming to. Probably the only rules that is always true is to let your design breathe, even if it's very subjective. Indeed, let's see another example. This is an example of an upscale luxury website, very minimal. As you can see, there is a lot of white space around the logo and the small header on the top. But what's interesting here is that despite the distance between the columns is very short, there is a huge use of white space inside the content. So inside the images themselves contains a lot of white space. And this is measurable. I'm sure that they choose to have the same distance between the image border and the image content, let's say. But don't forget that white space is also a feeling, not just something that you can measure. In this example, we wanted to distantiate the top banner, that is this one, from the second banner, the second section it was following. At the same time, we didn't want to increase too much the margin, because we want that the second section is clearly visible when you load the page. So what we did is to add a background shape on the first banner. Here is highlighted, the triangle. And the final result is that you have the feeling that the two sections are far from each other, or that there is enough empty space between them, but in reality the margin is very low. This is a strategy that you can use to correctly manage white space in your design. The third tip is to type it readable and nice. It may seem that since we have a lot of options nowadays with the font in the web in general, it may seem that the more stylish font you choose, the better. But I suggest you to think also about the readability of these fonts. Indeed, balance readability and style. But how to do that? With a lot of testing. I provide you some examples. In the first column, we have stylized fonts. Those are fonts that are known because they are very stylized. For example, I may use a Matic font for an handcrafted product website, or Pacifico for a leisure one. And in the other column, we have fonts that are more readable. In this case, they still provide some feeling when used in your website, like Nonito and Comforta are very informal, while Georgia is more upscale luxury, let's say. But it's out of doubt that the first fonts in the first columns are more will have a strong impact on your visitors. So when you have to choose which font you want to use for your website, you may have the temptation to think, okay, I can read the stylized fonts, so let's go for them. But let's just wait to see what happens when we reduce drastically the font size. As you can see, the stylized fonts are barely readable, while the other fonts are holding just fine. Of course, we can take the better of both worlds using styled fonts for headings only. Odoo provides you some tools to choose how to pair fonts, but let's see how it works first. Here we have a pair between Roboto and Shiraka. Roboto works fine as an editing font, but Shiraka is probably tiring in the long run if you have to read an entire paragraph. It works better when Shiraka is used as an editing font and Roboto is used for the body, for the paragraphs. But is Roboto the best match when it comes to design? I think that Comforta is probably the better font in this case, but you can choose. It's really up to you. If you want to change fonts in Odoo, you have just to go in the Option tab again and change the font family in the right field. And if you open the drop-down, you will see that there are options for headings and buttons too. So you can set, for example, font family Roboto as a general font that it will be used for all the paragraph, and headings and buttons have different fonts. My fourth tip is to do not overdo it, clearly. One single idea is better than 100 not good ideas or maybe good ideas. It's like saying I love pizza, ice cream, popcorn and coffee, so let's put all together. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It barely works in designing website neither. And even when it works, you have to take into account that crowded design really taxes the mind of the visitors, because if they have to look hard to find what makes your website unique, your design doesn't work. Here there is an example of complex design. It's a company that apparently doesn't exist anymore. Who knows why? It's called Licky.com. And my feeling is that I'm totally lost, unless I'm interested in Caribbean coffee, of course. And I will probably just seek refuge in the search bar on the top. This is probably why they choose red as a search, as a color for the search button. In comparison, we have the website of a local retail Deleuze. The actions are still very visible, they're red, but if the visitor is not interested in this kind of content, it's really easy to navigate in other section of the website. So the big question, is minimal always better? Sometimes not, or as designers love to say, it depends. Here we have an A/B testing that Carglass did. In the first case, we have a banner full of content with timing, working hours, a service provided, search box to find your retail shop. In the second banner that I tried, it was very minimal, just a very visible call to action. And of course, the aim here is to focus the user attention to that call to action. So which one worked better? Apparently, after the A/B testing, they discovered that the first one was better. But why? Because Carglass clients have specific need. They have a broken glass and they want to fix it. So their only questions are, is the shop open? And where I can find the shop? This may not work for 90% of business out there, but it surely worked for them. Then there is my bonus tip, that is to use the right approach when you discuss about design, because it's easy to organize a design workflow like a beauty contest. Indeed, if you put 5 people in a room and you ask them what they like, they will probably end up with 5 totally different ideas. My suggestion is to, rather than talk about what you like, talk about what you like, talk about why it works. Talking about why things works make easier collaboration, because rather than talk in an abstract field, you talk about what the user really needs and how to accomplish these needs. And it's all for today, for this talk. I remind you that there is a question-answer talk afterwards, so I can reply to your question. Thank you very much, and be safe. Bye.
So hello everyone. Hi Stefano, thank you for your fantastic talk today. Now we're taking all of your questions. Dear viewers, please continue to write them in the chatter. We will respond to them as we go. Should we not be able to cover all your questions, there will be an extended Q&A session after this Q&A session where Stefano will be available to answer the remaining questions. Stefano, we have a question for you. Once you design, from Peter Foreman, once you design or create your website, can you show us how to save export your theme to use it later or apply to a different Odoo instance?
Okay.
Is that something we can?
Let's say when you start creating a website with Odoo and you create all the customization for the style, the palette and the buttons, etc., you can't export this setup you made to another website. You can't. Of course, you can keep track, but exporting the website design that you made is not a functionality that we provide actually at the moment.
Okay. There's another question of Peter Foreman as well. Could you show us how you can upload fonts that are not from Google Fonts? Apparently you have mentioned that in a previous talk. So
yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
here's someone who would like to show.
Okay,
you to show that?
I think that the question was if you can use other fonts rather than upload, because you can't technically upload. I mean, it doesn't work that way, but you can use other fonts. Mm-hmm. And of course, I can show you right now. Is the screen online? It should be. Okay, perfect. So here there is the Odoo user interface, and what we want to do is not using Google Font. So when you use Google Font, you click in the options, and here there is the font family, and you click on add Google Font. But this is not what we are looking at right now. Our friend wants to know to add custom fonts from other source. So what you should do in this case is to add a code injection. So you click in the head here, and you are your custom code here. So I have a tab open from Google Fonts, but this is how the embed code should look like. So you can take this code from another source and add it here in the head of the web page. It doesn't mean that automatically all your fonts will magically, all your text will magically be converted to this font. Yeah. You will have to address which kind of element you want that use these fonts. So in order to do that, you can't do that directly from the user interface because the font will not be visible in the list, but you can, and this is what you should do in this case. So exiting from the editor, you click on customize, and there's the HTML editor. Then you go in the SCSS, and then you define the bootstrap variables that use the that you want this font to be applied to. You can refer to bootstrap. I don't have the link, sorry. But if you go in the probably here. No, sorry, it's not here. But if you look in the documentation of Bootstrap, there is a list of all the variables that you can customize, and you will have to write the variable's name, for example, Eading's font, and then the name of the font that you embedded. It's more or less what you should do.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another question from Jonathan Castillo. Hi Stefano, any recommendations about the use of specific fonts for the body, title and buttons, please? It can be strong or quickly too much.
It depends by the style you are aiming to. For the body, you should be sure that the font is readable. This is prioritary. I mean, in Google Fonts library, you will find tons of fonts that suit this objective. You can choose between serif or sans serif font. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it's up to you and the style that you want to. So readability for the body. And for the headings, you can go a little bit crazy, let's say, and choose a different kind of font because headings are bigger, so usually are readable all the times. as I said in the presentation. For the buttons is tricky, depends also by the colors that you want to use for the background. So in some case you should take care about readability too. In other case you can go for a more stylish font. You should really check everything together and look how it looks together.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Another question that has been raised. In your palettes, there's always a white color. Is that something mandatory?
In the examples, yeah. No, it's not mandatory at all, of course. It's just a base color that I prefer to add. If you don't want to use white in your website, you can just use any other kind of color. Just keep in mind that the file colors I showed you before, here in the options tab, these 5 colors will be the colors used in your website. So in this case, for example, it's interesting to have some snippet with a white background. So it's the reason why the white is here.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another question from Nicolas Denise. Are all these new functionalities only adapted for a showcase website, or can we use it to adapt complete flows, such as the web design of an e-commerce, precisely the flow of order confirmation? This is a question more about e-commerce. There's other talks on e-commerce.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Maybe a general remark on that.
Yeah, everything we decide site-wise in these options, in this functionality, will affect any components of your website. Yeah. So these colors will affect others module too, the events module, the blog module, the e-commerce one, everything altogether. Is the entire point to keep consistency across the entire website.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. We have a more general question, and I'm not sure it will be possible to be very complete about it, but it's been asked multiple times by a lady called Himali Sheth. Okay. She wants to get a few points or a few suggestions for designing a website for a catering business. Do you have some creative input for that?
For
a catering business, like
catering.
food catering business.
It depends. This is what I suggest. Try always to find the answers the clients are looking for. They're looking for an upscale catering, or they're more looking for the price. They're looking for something that is local, or they're not interested in that. There are different kind of needs and different kind of offer. So what you should do is to try to answer those questions, conveying your design in conveying the user to click in your magic buttons in your call to action using the design. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think that is quite useful. I hope Himali, that was useful to you as well. Otherwise, just post another question. Another question is there any way I can use a website which I designed before as a template and create a new one with the website editor?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it depends by what kind of design you made. I think that right now with this, we can show the screen. Right now we have a lot of new functionalities. For example, the fact that you can add the background shapes here. You see it? Here there is a simple example. This is something very cool that really open to new possibilities. So I don't know how much the design that we are talking about, but I think that Odoo version 14 provide a lot of new opportunities to our users. Yeah, yes. Of course, you will have to design it again in Odoo. Of course, you can't take a Photoshop file and just throw in this interface, but it provides a lot of.
As far as the color codes, the margins that you defined are concerned, you can easily easily adapt an Odoo website to those.
If, for example, you have a template, that a design that was already made by a designer using Photoshop, for example, and if this design is made well, so there is a primary color, there is a defined balanced color system, you can easily transport all these colors in Odoo and recreate the website in Odoo.
Okay, fantastic. So I think we have about a minute left for questions. So we will not be able to cover them all. I will address one question that was asked. Is there any way I can use a website which okay, that's already been answered. Can you save a template for future use within? I suppose this regards both within an existing website, so for new pages, for instance, or a new website, an entirely new website.
I think that I already answered this question in a previous talk, but I can repeat. Maybe, of course, there are other people. Maybe if we can show the screen again, there is a functionality. Here it is. You select a snippet, you customize it, then you click on Save. You define a title, custom image here, French keyboard. Okay, and the snippet is saved in the list. So you can do that in the same website, in the same instance.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we don't have more time left in this Q&A session. If you want to continue asking some of questions to Stefano, please follow the link posted right in this chatter at the end of the Q&A for a little extended Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.